I was sitting in my apartment and flipping through an old photo album. It was strange that not so long ago, life had seemed so bright and full of possibilities. Now it seemed muted and colorless. It had been 3 years since Connor had left me for a younger coworker. He claimed he'd fallen in love and couldn't do otherwise. I'd been devastated at first, but now his daily phone calls pleading with me to make things right only annoyed me. Each call reminded me of the betrayal I had tried so hard to forget. In the evening, I decided to take a bath to relax. I turned on the water, added a generous amount of bubble bath, and lit a few candles. The warm water enveloped me, and time seemed to blur as I soaked, absorbed in thought. Memories of better times flashed through my mind, but when I finally got out, I saw myself in the mirror. Wrapped in a towel, I studied my reflection. 42 years is not a judgment, I thought. My figure was still slim, though there were small creases in places that hadn't been there 10 years ago. I adjusted my towel and smiled weakly at myself. Life wasn't over yet. Suddenly, the peaceful silence of my evening was broken by a loud knock on the door. The insistent drumbeat and the voice yelling, "Open the door," made my heart pound. In a panic, I pulled a towel over me and rushed to the door. Standing on the threshold was a tall, athletically built young man, probably in his mid-30s. His brown hair was slightly disheveled and confusion flickered in his hazel eyes. "I'm sorry, but you flooded me," he said. "I'm your downstairs neighbor. I just moved in yesterday." His gaze darted away, clearly trying not to look at my towel-clad state. I gasped and rushed into the bathroom. The water was indeed over the edge and dripping onto the floor. "Oh no, I'm so sorry. I was thinking about it and completely forgot about the water," I exclaimed guiltily as I hurried back to the door. "Let me help clean up," suggested the neighbor. His name, as I soon learned, was Tyler. Grateful for the help, I agreed, and together we began wiping up the water with towels. As we worked, Tyler told me that he had just moved here from out of town, and that he was an architect specializing in designing country houses. He spoke easily and warmly, which immediately put me at ease with him. When the floor was finally dry, I offered him tea as a small apology for the inconvenience. Tyler smiled and agreed. We ended up talking for several hours. He proved to be an engaging conversationalist with a sharp mind and a great sense of humor. He told me about his current projects, moving to the city, and even his love of outdoor adventures. I couldn't remember the last time I had laughed so much or felt so comfortable in someone's company. After that evening, Tyler and I started seeing each other often. At first it was casual. He'd stop by to borrow some salt, and I'd ask him to help me hang a painting. Then one day he invited me to a contemporary art show. It was very nice to share this experience with a person who appreciated it as much as I did. After that, there were trips to the theater, long walks in the park, and endless conversations about everything and nothing. I began to smile and laugh more often. I felt as if I had turned back time, as if I had become a dozen years younger. I started taking better care of myself, buying new dresses and experimenting with my hair. Meanwhile, Connor kept calling. His voice in the receiver no longer elicited pain or longing. Instead, it elicited only irritation. Every time he tried to talk about starting over, I felt a growing indifference. Once, as he began another request, I interrupted him. "Connor, don't call again," I said firmly. "I've met someone else," and for the first time in years, I felt completely free of him. Tyler was so different from my ex-husband. He was calm, attentive, and a great listener. He never rushed me, never pressured me. That being said, I could sense his genuine interest in me. One evening, as we sat in my kitchen drinking wine and discussing art, Tyler got up to pour us another glass. As he leaned closer to hand me the glass, our eyes met. The moment between us was energizing and enticing. His hands rested gently on my shoulders, and I felt a warmth spill over me. It was then that I realized I didn't want to resist my feelings for him anymore. That night, Tyler showed me what it meant to feel truly loved. His touch was both tender and passionate, igniting emotions I hadn't felt in years. I trembled in his arms, completely surrendering to the moment. For the first time in a long time, I felt beautiful, desirable, and alive. I woke up the next morning to soft sunlight streaming through the curtains. Tyler was lying next to me, his face serene and beautiful. I watched him as he slept and felt an overwhelming sense of peace. In that moment, I realized that I had found something rare and precious. For the first time in many years, I felt truly and completely happy.